Hey, welcome to another Inside Marketing where we are live on 65. You know, Reddit has been around for 21 years now, but in the past few years, it's certainly grown vastly in popularity. Now, maybe that's because of the $60 million per year deal they signed with Google, which has a lot of Reddit content turning up in AI overviews. So, how much attention should SEOs be paying to this, and how much can Reddit alone benefit your SEO process? Well, I have an SEO expert of 20 years who also happens to have been actively using Reddit for the benefit of her SEO clients for more than 15 years. So here's your chance to find out from an expert what this symbiotic relationship is between Google and Reddit and how to use that to your advantage. But first, SMX Advanced Boston, the leading search and performance marketing conference, it's just around the corner. So, whooshing up to the 65th floor of the Empire State Building to join me in person, live on 65, I have the conference organizer and one of the featured speakers to do a quick state of the industry overview and discuss all that's due to happen when the industry arrives in Boston for all the conference sessions and shenanigans. So here we are, it's another live on 65, and this is the first time that we've actually had an opportunity to do an SEO to go special. I could not be happier because my guests are so well known in the industry. You're bound to know who they are, but I'm going to ask them anyway because that's part of what we do. And then we're going to focus a little on the SMX Advanced Conference, which is coming up in Boston very soon. But first, we shall discuss the industry, correct it, make sure that we know that everybody understands how we'd like it to run, and then we'll talk about the conference. So great to see you guys. Ladies first, Crystal, how lovely to see you. Thank you for coming up to join us. Now, you and I have met each other before. I think it was at an event here in New York. It's debatable, but we definitely have met before. And you are with Wix. People know that, I think. And you do have this incredible title that I can't remember. You are the interstellar commander of SEO and all kinds of cool shit, or something like that. I don't know, but
I am the head of AI search and SEO communications at Wix.
yeah, that's a very fancy title.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue.
Danny, you again, you're in charge of SMX and also Search Engine Land.
Correct.
But Search Engine Land and SMX has been acquired by one company, which was acquired by another company. So your title has changed so many times. So what would you like your title to be today?
Today it's Editorial Director of Search Engine Land and SMX. And yes, we are owned by SEMrush, which is now owned by Adobe officially. So
yeah, you're the great title. I have to tell you, I don't know why it is, but titles are getting so long. This is a true story. I met a guy recently who gave me his title and then said, and this is when I know it's going to be an interesting title. He said, but I'm also. And the minute he said, but I'm also, he went through it. And I was thinking as he was telling me, this guy doesn't need a business card. He needs like a toilet roller to get everything on it. Anyway, lovely to see you both here. We're going to talk about the SEO industry because there is so much going on. Okay, we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but we're going to try and cover as much as we can. And then we have the SMX Advanced, which is coming around for the second time in real life, again in Boston. I was actually my very last
SEO conference. It was nothing that you said or did, by the way. I just got old and had to drop out. So we'll talk about the conference as well. But Crystal, first of all, with this fantastic title that you got, what do you actually do?
So I do a lot of things. I'm really fortunate because Wix is a huge company. We have over 300 million users worldwide.
Wow.
And I get to work with our SEO product team to help develop some of the products that we roll out to our users so that they can improve their CMS. So I say I get to work with them. I do a very small part every now and then. I say, what if we had this? But most of the time, Inat Hobie and Siebold is the leader there, and she they come up with so many fantastic new features. They just rolled out an AI structured data tool, for instance, where you write a blog, you publish a blog, and then it just discerns the structured data for you with AI, and it's fully ready to use, fully validated, and all of that sort of stuff, which is really fantastic. And they do loads of other things there, but they let me have input on some of the different tools that we're doing there.
But your job is to do the SEO for Wix.
No. So I do a lot of different things. So I do that. So, and then I also.
Hey, well, there's another, but I also do.
So the AI so the communications part is essentially the way I describe it really, really quickly is I communicate the value of Wix to SEO and AI search professionals like yourselves and like folks at SMX. So that's why I do a lot of speaking and I write for Art the magazine and things like that. And then I will also communicate the value of SEO and AI search to Wix users. So we host a monthly webinar, for instance, and we bring in experts to talk to our Wix audience and to explain to them about different things as well. I also do SEO for the AI search lab and for the SEO as the Wix SEO hub. And I also have input on some of the growth strategies we have around Wix.com as a brand. So it suits me down to the ground because I'm a bit of an ADHD queen. So that's all fine for me. And also Wix is Wix is the kind of company where if you have a big idea, then they'll run with it. So we've recently acquired Base 44, which is a tool that allows you to vibe code lots of different products and make things that you want. And that's a very Wix kind of thing to do. We like big ideas and we like to move forward with them.
Two things before I come to Danny that are really important here. One is if I asked what you do in your personal life, your answer would be, what personal life? Given everything you've just said there.
Well, no, I'm really fortunate. I have a beautiful family, and we spend a lot of time together. We play a lot of board games. I recently taught my son blackjack, which is a lot of fun.
And he's cleaned you out. And the other thing is, and this one's been, I've been thinking about this for a while. Why is the company called Wix? I mean, I kind of get it with WordPress, and maybe even a little bit with Squarespace, but Wix, what is it?
So the company was founded ages ago. I remember celebrating the Sweet Wix teen at Brighton SEO in I think it was 2022 or 2023. So I think the company is over 18 years old, which in internet time is a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I do not know off the top of my head why they decided to call it Wix, if I'm completely honest, and maybe I should learn more of the company lore. But
I was kind of thinking when you were answering the question there, that was the wrong question.
This is it, but it's fine. I will have a chat with Avishai Abrahani, who was one of the founding members and is still our CEO.
I'm sure there's a reason. And you're doing so much. Danny, the one thing that I wanted to ask you more than anything else is because you and I go way back.
Yes.
So, of course, I go back to the very beginning of the industry. I've been around 31 years. So I know when SEO began. I never liked the term SEO, as you know.
Yes.
But it turned out to be what it is. Again, it's gone through a few changes, but nothing has changed it as much as what seems to have been a big surprise to everybody with AI. Had you been paying attention to the science, it wouldn't have been such a big surprise, that's for sure. So how has it changed the direction and the content and what it is that you're publishing at Search Engine Land?
Yeah.
And how long are you going to be called Search Engine Land?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's still value in that as a brand, though, and I think that's going to be one of the key points we'll probably talk about is how important being a brand is in this new AI age. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a total reset of of SEO in a way, because it's like all the old things we used to know. We've kind of joked that SEO was kind of getting boring there for a little while right before AI launched. So it was just, do this, do that, and you're going to have plenty of success. Now,
I'm just going to say this to the SEO community. They're all looking at you, Danny, going, but it wasn't that boring.
other than a few, core updates and other algorithm updates, it was fairly stable. Yeah. But yeah, it's like a total reset. It's very exciting. It's very frustrating. It's very, there's a lot of anxiety. People still don't know what they're doing.
Well, that's an interesting point. So this is one of the reasons, and this is going to be kind of like, what does Wix mean? Question for you. But it's changed so quickly, so dramatically overnight. And Search Engine Land is about bringing together experts in that field to write about being an expert in AI. How can everybody be an expert in AI? If it only just happened like 18 months ago, it really dropped on people.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would consider themselves an AI expert at this point. I think it's very much.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Well,
I see them.
People that I respect don't consider themselves an AI expert, but there are plenty of people. There's always going to be people like that who position themselves as I know everything, and you don't. But yeah, I think it's very much we're kind of learning in public, and I think that's where Search Engine Land is powerful. It's people are sharing all the things they're learning, good or bad, and that's where we're powerful. I think it's just we bring that to the community. We don't say this is the answer. We are thinking of it. It's a conversation right now. We're all in this together. We always are. We're always a very strong community, and we do best when we learn from each other, I think, rather than just argue with each other. So that's what we try to highlight. We try to highlight the voices who are being helpful and, really doing the work and getting in the weeds.
And that's one of the things that, again, the reason I brought it up, I'm kind of half joking about it, but everybody has to come to terms with the fact that we're all involved in this now.
Yes.
So we have to learn from each other. For anybody who's watching this now, and it's quite a lot of people in this industry, if they wanted to help you at Search Engine Land, what do they do? Pay you in a bar or?
Just have good ideas and be willing to share your data, your insights, your expertise, like what you're learning.
Can they go to Search Engine Land now and find a form, send you an email?
There's not. It's best if you just want to reach out on LinkedIn or somewhere at social and just drop me a note and say, hey, I want to write about this topic because I know it really well and you're not covering it. Like, that's the stuff I love. It's like when they come up with something that I haven't thought of, that's when I'm like, oh yes, that's exciting.
So if you have any great ideas, that's what you need to do. Get together on LinkedIn with Danny. So, Crystal, you've been around for quite a while, as you say, not as long as me, but certainly for long enough to understand how quickly things change in the industry. One of the things that has been transformative is the SEO tool set, which started with just like a simple piece of software that did rank checking, and that was it. And people still mention this. I still don't know why rank checking. They still talk about that. But how dramatically has it changed? I mean, seriously, so much. To the point that, given what you've just said about Wix, and you crammed a lot into a small space there, there's a lot in there. But when you talk about it in that way, it kind of sounds like, well, do I need SEO? Maybe if I just go to Wix, build a website there, it comes with SEO included in it. So how much, given that we're entering this era of AI, which is affecting everything around, it's not just SEO, but everything. How much of it is going to be automated? And the question that I'm asking is not really, is this going to take over the SEO job? Because I know for a fact a lot of basic SEO can be automated. It has been. People have been using Python scripts for quite a long time, without realizing that, what we're actually into the realm of AI now. Where do you see when somebody has come to Wix and they build their website, where does the human element come in there? And what's the SEO community going to have to bring on top of the technology that already exists? Do they have to bring in better technology to better than Wix technology? The question's going to be longer than the answer.
No.
You can see where I'm going.
Yes, I do see where you're going. So at Wix, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is making sure that any website of any size, with any amount of resources, will have a baseline level of SEO. So I worked agency side for ages, and I remember I had to get new clients coming to me and they didn't have a sitemap. Just didn't have one, and I'd have to make one for them and put it, and get that, they didn't have RSS, they didn't have, they didn't have various different things. They didn't have, title tags inputted and lots of other things. So whereas when you come to, if you have a Wix website, you will have a dynamic sitemap. You will have all of these different things that are built into it. So everybody at the very base level, we handle the SSL certificates, which is something that, loads of websites, the SSL expires and everyone goes, what? And you go, so do you know who opened it? And they were like, we have no idea. We have no idea who paid for the SSL certificate. We have no idea how to fix this problem. The website is completely dead right now.
Strangely enough, in all the years I've been involved, I just got an email from somebody saying, you better take a look at your SSL certificate. And I think it was so long ago when I did it, I was, shit, who does that again?
Precisely. So we handle that. And we have the HT access built into the frameworks. And so we do all the redirects for the WW and the HTTPS and the HTTP, blah, blah, blah. So we do all of that stuff. So everybody has a baseline, right? This means that if you have somebody who is expert, they can get in there and they can make it their own. So for instance, with the structured data that I described, we have something that will generate the AI structured data. So for instance, if you put an FAQ on a blog and then you publish the blog, then you go back in and then you can see that we've generated FAQ structured data for that. And you're like, cool. And this means that you as an SEO can now look at that structured data and go, okay, that's all good. That looks good. You can test it. You can verify, but you don't have to spend the time making sure that you use the right quotation marks that aren't the curly ones, and put the comma in the right place and da-da-da. You can say, you know the pains I'm talking about. So you don't have to do all of those. You can just get on with your stuff and you can move faster, right? So the basic stuff is covered. And then you can do that. And then you can also look at wider things, right? So we have ways where you can integrate with different things. We have different, you can use JavaScript, you can pull in APIs, you can do various different stuff. But what I mean all of this to say is that what AI does is it will cover your base, right? It will cover your base, and it will mean that you can get through with the basics really, really quickly. And it leaves you more time to be creative, and it leaves you more time to do some of the things that are more complex, and that will need, additional systems. It will also give you more time so that you can fill the gaps, because, you talked about what you just said about people coming to you being like, this is an idea you haven't thought of, you haven't covered. That's what an SEO should be doing right now. They should be looking at where those gaps are. Where is AI not? Where, what don't they have in their training data? What can I actually add that's actually new information? Not just asking what is a water bottle? And publishing that blog for the 750 million time. We've already, AI knows what that is. People know what that is. We don't need another blog that says that. But if you had a blog that was what is the average size of a water bottle, or how long can you leave a water bottle in a car before it's bad, or lots of new data on that sort of thing. People want to read that. People are interested in that. So the AI will give you the basic things, but that means that you have more time to be more creative, to really do some really juicy stuff that will make the difference and will give you a competitive edge, a genuinely competitive edge.
I don't know that I've ever had the desire to find a water bottle blog, but you never know.
You never know.
So here's another thing then, Danny, which goes back to, you being the conduit to bring anything that's new back into. You and I were talking recently, and it was a great conversation. Some of the things that we touched on there, though, are still important. And I said sometimes with the SEO community, with all the changes that we've had, the SEO community just kind of thinks like SEO is a hammer. Now everything is a nail kind of thing. And with AI, I see the same kind of thing. It's like, how do we stick SEO into AI overviews and, talk about ranking what in an AI overview? It's kind of a different kind of skill set. So you really have to take a look at these from two different directions. They have to come together kind of thing, Yeah. But is it a case of, I don't know what I said about SEO before. I've never said SEO is dead. Maybe I did. I don't know. But it doesn't matter because it's just a title. Maybe that's not what we do anyway. Maybe SEO is dead, but I don't know that we need to have another. Can we find another name that is cool as what SEO used to be back in the day? how is it that we can, instead of now that we've got these changes this time around, try and get people to understand within the marketing mix what we used to call SEO was important, but it's even more important now, particularly with brands, as we've already mentioned, to somehow, instead of having SEO, as I've said so many times before, being kind of like the redheaded stepchild just outside of the marketing mix and can't get into the family properly. How do we get the entire marketing world to understand that this is really important and that it should be considered a damn sight more than you did with SEO? Because even these days, I still think that you can go to larger agencies and larger brands, talk about SEO, and they go, well, after we did all of our media buying, everything, this was left, so you can have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think I would never say at this point SEO is dead. I think because we're seeing
It's just the terminology.
The terminology for sure, but the stuff that we've been doing in SEO is all about getting that visibility, which is, I think, the big shift that a lot of people need to grasp is like visibility isn't enough in the AI world anymore. Like it's you have to have that brand that's differentiated in a way, and I think that a lot of SEO people are applying SEO logic to this new thing, if we call it GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call this emerging marketing field. And that's the problem. Like, this is not SEO. It's not measured the same way. The outcomes are not the same. It's, as I was listening to a great presentation by Will Reynolds today, SEO has been a performance channel. What this thing that's next, it's not. It's just, it's not a performance channel. So we have to kind of get to grips with that and understand that so we can move forward and try and figure out the many differences that come along. Like you can't just go monthly keyword volume. Like that's not a thing anymore. We don't know how many people are searching for it. And are they using 4 words or are they using 100 words when they're doing their prompting on these on AI systems? So it's a very different world. And I think we're starting to figure some stuff out. I don't think we'll figure a lot of the stuff out because we just don't have the insight. Like we don't have a Google Search Console for AI, or we don't have any of those insights. So that's I think the big challenge. So, it's just there's gonna be a lot of people I think left behind if they keep doing what they've been doing for the last 10, 15 years, however long they've been doing it.
I think just to jump in on that, I think one of the things that's changed is like reputation. Like reputation was never particularly an SEO issue. But with GEO, then like reputation is a big issue. If the AI is reporting something that is reputationally damaging, and then you have 2 problems. You may have 2 problems, or you may have 1. It might be that they're reporting something that you maybe don't like, but it is true. And so then you need to decide, are we going to fix it? And if so, now we need to like do the work to make sure that it's fixed online as well, that people know that we fixed it. And then if you have something that they're reporting and is reputationally damaging or whatever, and it's not true, then you have to unpick where they got that from, and you have to, build relationships and think about all of that sort of stuff as well. And like, that's a different activity from like ranking number 1 for something. And that takes a lot more levers. And as you said, in terms of performance channel, like whether or not it's a performance channel, the win there isn't necessarily a click. The win there is changing the conversation, which is a different kind of, set of tools. I think it's, I think it's really fascinating. And I think,
But one of the things that I've always thought about the SEO community is that everybody that comes into the SEO community, they don't come from one source, and you never needed a degree or some kind of a qualification to come into SEO. So, like you say, the industry taught itself to do what it does. But there is so much in fundamental marketing in itself.
Yes.
Whereas sometimes in the SEO world, we're talking like we send data to devices. No, you're sending marketing messages to human beings. And in basic marketing parlance, I've mentioned this before, when you talk about marketing communications, you talk about source, channel, message. Okay, what's the source? Is it trustworthy? Yeah, which channel are you going to use? By channels, I'm saying is advertising, is it PR, whatever it is, and what's the message? How do we get that? And then the other thing from an SEO point of view is that I think a lot of people just thought, it's one of those traffic drivers. You just throw as much as you can at a website and see what sticks. And then come back and tell me. Whereas, generally speaking, in marketing, it's quality before quantity anyway. It's trying to get the right message to the right person at the right time. All of that sounds like basic 101 marketing, and basically it probably is. But I think now is the time that we should start and think more about that fundamental thing. How do we get our message there? The reputation thing that you talked about before, that's what brand is. That's how you build a brand. Nobody buys a brand that they don't trust. The reason that you buy the brand is because you trust it and you've got some kind of an emotional kind of connection with that brand,
I think also the interesting thing that AI exposes or shows or facilitates is like the real. It's like, so I think there can sometimes be a lot of like brand for the sake of brand, like they're like Virgin, for instance, is a brand that is just generally a brand. They just stick their brand on all kinds of things. Oh, we're doing finance now, we're doing trains, we're doing space, we're doing whatever. They'll just stick their brand on whatever. But sometimes with AI, like there's no place to hide. They see everything, right? They see every Reddit post, every YouTube video, every comment on Facebook. They see all of that. So if there's some kind of, no matter what you say about your brand, if there's a fundamental issue with your brand, it will also expose that, which I think is really interesting. And it can also create some opportunities. Ahrefs, for instance, they recently posted that when they saw when they queried themselves on AI, it said that one of the problems with Ahrefs was that it didn't have a free plan. And they were like, we do have a free plan. And they were saying, and it kept saying, nope, they don't have a free plan. And they're like, but we do. So they did the work and they articulated and their free plan and made it really, really clear. And they told everybody about it and stuff. And so they took this challenge that they had in AI, and they made it into an opportunity. And I think that there are loads of those. Another one that a lot of people might see is like hallucinated URLs. So AI will hallucinate URLs, and very often they'll hallucinate URLs that are logical, right? Maybe you had a landscaping business and they hallucinate that it's like, mikeslandscaping.com/hedges or something. And maybe yours was /hedging or something. I don't know. And maybe you should make the URL hedges because maybe that makes sense. So I think that it sometimes it's a bit of a mirror as well. But I think it can also sometimes be interesting opportunities. I see you nodding. I don't know if you want to jump in.
People should understand, I think, that AI is fascinating and it's blowing your mind. But we're only just scratching the surface.
Yep.
So at this point in time with AI, it's pretty simple as this, input to output, crap in, crap out. It's the same kind of thing. So why would it hallucinate? Well, it's statistical. If it doesn't find it here, it'll just go to whatever the next possibility is. You have to kind of live with that. We could talk forever, but we're going to run out of time. I want to go to the conference in a second, but what I also want to talk about is one of the things that I discovered when the industry was growing. Again, I followed the science, so I've been a member of ACM for 20 years, as you know, on the information retrieval side, and I learned a lot from that, and it helped me. And because I was explaining the underlying science of SEO to clients, they would then go, "Oh, now I get it." And then instead of talking to an SEO guy who is telling them what to do and how to do, I was telling them that why to do, because this is the science. And for so long, with the growth of SEO, you would go to a client who'd talk to 3 other SEOs and they would say this, and I'm sorry, it's cruel, but they would just say, you guys all say the same thing. So it's very hard to differentiate yourself. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons that I talk about that is that we have this new opportunity. There is going to be massive change. How are we going to differentiate ourselves? I think that's what the SEO community needs to think about, how they're going to differentiate themselves. Because a lot of what we're seeing now, and this is the truth, is we have this new AI tool. Well, it's an AI tool. It was hand-coded previously. You've given it a code of paint, and now it's an AI tool.
Right.
You're going to have more to say to a client than, some really cool SEO tools. Let's talk about the conference, okay? Yeah. Search Engine Land has been around for coming up 20 years now, yes. I think, yeah. Mm-hmm. SMX has been around for 19 years. 19 years, been around for a very long time. The term SEO, SMX, Search Engine Land, Search Engine Watch, all of these things have been around for a very long time. Maybe they will change. You know, there are existing brands and there is the value that goes with that. But the conversation is going to change.
Yes.
So when I come to Boston in June,
June
yeah,
3rd.
in June,
Yep.
what's going to be different on the agenda? What is it that I'm going to learn that's new?
Well, it feels like every few months everything's different anyway. So nothing's the same from last year. We're talking about all the thing. Well, one thing I'm excited about is we're doing a follow-up study. We released some original research at the conference last year, looking at how SEOs and consumers are actually feeling about AI. So we're going to do some follow-up research on that, see how things have changed over the past year. Crystal, of course, will be speaking. One of the big things this year was personal intelligence, which I'd love, her to speak a bit to in a minute. But yeah, we're going to be diving into all things. How do you tie ROI to AI and all the things you're doing? Content. What is the state of creating content with AI at this point? All the latest on GEO, which we treat as separate from SEO, but equally important. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting content, and we also have an entire PPC track. I'm more of an SEO guy, so that's where I focus. But we also have 20 sessions, 3 great keynotes. We have Don Anderson, who's going to be doing one of our SEO keynotes on generative information retrieval, which I'm sure if you were there, you would love that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, lots of exciting stuff.
So yeah, I mean, Dawn, again, she is going to be the information retrieval scientist. I was just the great observer.
Yep.
So Crystal, tell us in the final moments of what we've got left here, what are you going to be talking about? What is the substance?
Yeah, so I'll be talking about personalization and how we optimize for personalization. And essentially, if people aren't familiar, in AI, it's slightly different. So in AI, you literally tell ChatGPT, oh, I'm a computer programmer, or I'm a dentist, or I'm a teacher. And it learns about you and it learns with you, which is why you can say to ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, based on our conversations, tell me about myself. And for search marketers, I think this is really, really interesting because Google doesn't do that. And what you find is that you're in a situation where the AI knows your customer really, 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 really well. So I'll be talking about the kinds of ways that you can signal the affinities, signal the affiliations that AI can understand to help them to know that you are right for their human orchestrator, for their human user. And some of them, there's some great examples that I've seen that I'll be sharing at the conference. And I think that it's a really interesting time. I think that, I was talking to someone about this and in relationship to agentic, because this also goes into the agentic element as well. And they were saying, oh, so you just need to tell them what you do. And I'm like, no, you need to tell them who you do it for. Who you do it for is really, really important. And it should be the case that you should know your customers as well as AI tools know them. If you don't know who your customers are, then,
Well, it all sounds good to me. Yes, I'll be there. I absolutely do want to just sit at the back because one of the things that I'm loving is I spent so many years of my life standing on stage, trying to help an audience, trying to tell them everything that I knew. Now I don't have to tell anybody anything. I just ask the questions, which is a great place to be in. So final check, date in Boston is
June 3rd to 5th. So the first day we'll be having what we call masterminds, or sort of roundtables of 10 people on a whole. I think we have 45 topics this year, or something, 30 to 45, wow, somewhere in there. And then we officially kick off on the Thursday, the 4th. We go all day with 5 sessions a day. We have keynotes and lots of networking and fun.
And great food.
And great food, yes.
Yeah, and great networking, great.
Yes.
One final thought. This is something that I always wanted to do, and I got fairly close to it. But I've always said about conferences, I wish that the stuff that people talk about when they're in the bar could be recorded.
Yes.
Because this is great stuff come from the stage, but much better stuff. So maybe you should do one of the sessions. Just do it in the bar. That's probably a great idea.
Maybe so.
Anyway, thanks to both of you for coming to join me here on the 65th floor of the Empire State Building for our first ever SEO to go live and in person. And look forward to that. We'll see you in Boston in June.
Welcome back to part 2 of the show. You know, there is no doubt that the SEO industry has been paying an awful lot of attention to that $60 million per year deal struck by Reddit and Google. So I thought it would be a good idea to get an expert overview of what that partnership means to the SEO industry. And as frequently happens to me, the name of one leading industry expert immediately popped into mind. If you've been in the industry for any length of time, you'll have heard the name Ann Smarty. Well, here she is, joining me now. Ann, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
It has, yeah. And it's funny you should say that, because I was just thinking before, I thought, you know, it's not that long ago when I was presenting a session. We did a session together at PubCon in Las Vegas, and I checked on that and I went, oh, 3 years ago.
3 years. I know. Time flies. It's unbelievable. It was like yesterday, right?
Yeah. And I was thinking perhaps it wasn't so recent. Anyway, I won't ask you what you've been doing for the past 3 years, but I do see you a lot on social media. You've been traveling a lot. You get to all of these fabulous places, hanging out on these great beaches and all of these places that
It's
you
not
that you
just
travel around.
beaches. We are a very adventurous traveling family. We like everything: ice, mountains, beaches, all of that. So it's all different. So yeah,
Great
I'm
adventures.
enjoying it.
So anyway, you've been around in the industry for a long time now, and I know that you're pretty well known because you've been around for more than 20 years, as far as I can remember, in the industry. And certainly for the longest time, you've been, you know, probably one of the few SEOs who's had a focus on Reddit for such a long period of time. That's for sure. But for the benefit of those who may not have yet come across Ann online, what are you up to now? Exactly, what's the role? What are you doing now? You started your own company, I think, yes?
Yep. That's in a most terrible time, to be sure. So I I have been in SEO for 20 plus years, and I'm now the co-founder of my own agency for 3 years. So we started exactly when ChatGPT came along. So it's funny how the industry was so disrupted, and suddenly I'm like, okay, now I will provide my own services. Not the best time for sure, but it was exciting. It was exciting.
It's funny you should say that, you know, because I mention this quite a lot. It comes around a lot because I've been in the industry for 31 years now. I mean, that's a long time
Wow.
to be around. Yeah, exactly. And I started my first internet marketing consultancy back in 1995. And when I tell people that, they go, oh, wow, what a visionary. Fancy you starting. And I go, what an idiot. In 1995, nobody needed an internet marketing consultancy. Because I would say internet and World Wide Web, and they would go, are you speaking in some kind of extraterrestrial language?
Well,
something?
it is funny, but even after all those years, I will have to explain to people what SEO is still. It is
Yeah.
still a very interesting industry to be in, because we are inside, we're so loud, and we make sure that everyone has their own terminology and whatnot. But when you step outside of it, no one knows. It's such a bubble.
Yeah, exactly. The number of times I've heard over the years people saying, I would just like to have a job where when I explained to my mother what my job is, she knew what I was talking about. But I never thought SEO was a great term for what we do, but we'll not go there.
Oh yes,
But the
let's not
industry is
go.
changing, that's for sure. And and ChatGPT certainly dropped in the laps of everybody in the industry like something unexpected out of the sky. But I think for those of us like myself, I've been following the science for a very long time. It wasn't so much of a surprise, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it wasn't a case of if it ever happens, it was just a case of when it happens. And so now everybody's trying to reevaluate the industry and where does SEO fit in the industry now?
Absolutely agree with you. I think the only surprise to me was how fast it started changing. And it wasn't like audience demand or anything. It's not like customers were like, we are now switching to AI. It almost happened despite them. No one wanted any AI answers. No one asked for them, but it all just started happening too fast. And I guess that was we've been seeing all the signs since what, 2014? For about 10,
Yeah, I
10
mean,
years. We
there are so
started,
many comparisons that you could make. I mean, people talk about zero click was a terrible thing, and now with AI overviews
yeah.
and nobody's clicking to go through to your website, and if nobody needs to come to my web
It
page,
has been the evolution for 10 years at least before it actually started happening too fast. So I
yeah, but
definitely
I had the
wasn't
same conversation
surprised.
when they invented something called snippets and then rich
Yes,
snippets.
exactly.
And
At
the
that
SEO
point,
industry was,
featured snippets, people also ask, and we started calling Google answer engine since I don't even remember since when, 2014, 2016. So it definitely, answer engine is not such a huge discovery at this point. It just somehow ChatGPT accelerated things, and that's the only
so
surprising
yeah,
thing.
again, without getting too far into the distant past, I wrote a book 24 years ago explaining how Google was using machine learning 24 years ago. So
Exactly.
it's not a big surprise, certainly to Google. What do you say about the end user? The end user isn't quite sure what they want until they receive it and then decide themselves. But for the end user, the goal for them is what Google's main function is, and that is satisfying the human need for information, whichever way they have to provide it. And for the end user, it's always going to be the fastest, the quickest you can tell me, so that I don't have to go and click through 10 links like I used to and get an answer, you know? From an information retrieval point of view, what I've said is that when I first described how information retrieval was and how it was the underlying science in SEO, and said it's kind of like in the olden days when you went into the library and the old librarian was there and you said to the librarian, you know, I want this, the librarian would point you to where the content is. That's what Google's been doing forever. And then you go and you click through this link and that link. Yet now with an AI overview, it's an entirely different thing. It just fans out, looks at the top 10 results or what it believes are the top 10 best results, synthesizes the data and gives you one answer. For the end user, it's great. For the SEO community, it's, oh, SEO is dead again. Anyway, so I think we've established there that AI has made a big difference. But one of the things that I realize, particularly with the chatter that goes on in the industry, is the number of times that people talk about an AI overview and how brands get mentioned. And a lot of them get mentioned because they were in a thread at Reddit. And I've had quite a lot of people asking me what the connection is between Reddit and Google. And, you know, from an information retrieval point of view, I fully understand that. But because you've been marketing into Reddit and understand the benefits of from a social media point of view, and then obviously the benefit that it's having with Google, do you want to just try and explain a little bit how or when you started to realize how important Reddit results were to Google? And then how is that something that SEOs should keep to the front of their mind these days?
Yes, absolutely. I think that just like you said before, do you hear an echo? I'm hearing an echo. But anyways, when I started doing things on Reddit, it wasn't because of Google. I wasn't a visioneer. I was there 15 years ago because it's a great community to find link amplifiers. I guess we called them that way at some point. Those people who blog, who are journalists, they are all on Reddit to kind of have ideas for their content. And just being part of that community is a great way to amplify your content without really proactive cold calling or outreach or anything like that. So we started there as the content amplification program, not so much for any other reasons. Then Reddit started ranking very well, especially for the bottom of the funnel queries. Like when people are researching a brand or a product, there is always a discussion on Reddit on that. And at that point, way before any AI came along, we started also helping clients with reputation on Reddit, even not necessarily they wanted more awareness or anything, but they wanted to be there where they're being discussed, and there is no easy way to do that on Reddit. So we kind of stepped in and started helping our existing clients, and then kind of separated it as a separate service. So it's been a while. It's not like 15 years ago, I was sitting, looking at Reddit and saying, okay, this is the future. Never happened like that. It just been a while. Somehow it happened to be part of our expertise when it became in all the headlines. ChatGPT has the exclusive deal with Reddit to kind of pool all the information for their training data. Google is ranking Reddit as hidden gems, as they call it. So it just happened that we in the middle of all those discussions, and kind of, okay, we know Reddit. So it definitely happened by accident.
So what are the benefits, first of all, of Reddit marketing? I mean, specifically just using Reddit for promotions. Do you just fit that into the social media bracket that's the same as Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn? I mean, with Reddit,
Definitely.
sometimes I wonder, is it a social media site like Facebook, or is it just a forum, or?
Yeah, it's in the middle. I know it's not exactly a social media platform, because there is no influence, there are no followers that would determine how much of your messaging is heard. So it's definitely different from just social media, but it's also not exactly a forum, because it's on all the topics you can imagine. So it's in the middle somewhere. And for content, we actually were using it to reach not exactly the target audience, but to reach local journalists or journalists that are interested in the topic, because they use Reddit as the homepage for everything that's happening, for sure. And we discovered that long time ago. It's been like that for years. It's just the industry wasn't paying attention. So it was on LinkedIn, on Twitter or X. I don't really like that new name of it, but you can reach journalists as well, but you have to be proactive about that. You have to tag them. You have to somehow comment on their threads to be heard. On Reddit, you can just post an irrelevant subreddit and everyone will see it. So it's a little bit different process there, and that's why we've been using it to share news on the niche or in the local subreddits. That's why we kept using it, because it was effective for just people liking what we are sharing and linking to it. We started using it for links.
So that's kind of interesting in the sense that, journalists have always had kind of support from things like Harrow, help a reporter out. They've had that. But one of the things that they need, in the same way that we're going to touch on as well with Google and ChatGPT and everybody, is about the authenticity and authority. They actually need to know that what they're looking at, that there is that expert. So when they're looking for it, so I guess that using Reddit, the upvoting and downvoting that happens there is actually a good kind of thermometer, if you want,
And
for the temperature of whether somebody's
discussions,
telling the truth. Yeah.
especially also like the comments part of it. It is a huge signal if something is going to be spread, or will have like a good reaction. If it's like, it doesn't have to be a good one, it can be a negative one, but that's journalists. They're looking for any kind of topics that trigger emotions, and Reddit is a great discovery channel for those. And that's why, and there is a huge difference between you trying to present your story to a journalist and them discovering you organically. They react absolutely different. They will be much more willing to share something that they think they discovered themselves than if we try to reach out to them through Harrow or any other methods.
Yeah. So again, it's not an area that I'd thought about much, to be honest. But I guess, yes, in terms of trying to get the attention of journalists, then that's one way to do, especially if you're tagging them and saying, by the way, your news story is over here.
Well, on Reddit, it happens very naturally when they don't realize that's even coming from the brand when you share some study or research or something interesting or some trends or statistics. They just if you frame it well, and we've learned for years how to do that. If you do not just state the fact, but you ask a question or you find something very interesting in the data that you have, and that usually sparks a lot of conversations, and that's when the brand starts getting all the attention as well. So it's been like that for years. It's just we were there just for links and media reach, but throughout the years Reddit has been becoming more and more important for other things as well, like for brand and product research, for brand discovery as well. And we kind of transitioned to all those as well because we already knew how Reddit worked.
So again, it's another one of those things where history kind of repeats itself. I don't know if you would remember, but way back in the day, I'm going to talk about links and how important links used to be back in the day. But then there was so much link spam, just like we've got AI slop, we had link slop back there. And as you can remember, we still got it now. If it comes to that, it hasn't changed a lot with links. But the analogy that I was thinking of is that way back in the day, Yahoo used to be very important because they were a directory as opposed to a crawling search engine. And if you wanted to be in the directory, you got a link from Yahoo. But the important thing was an editor at Yahoo, a human being, had to test the link, make sure that's what it was, that you're in the correct category and that kind of thing. And it became apparent to a lot of people, certainly in the SEO community, how important the Yahoo link was, because it did get a little bit of preference from Google, not just for the fact that a human being had looked at it, but you had to pay $200 to be in there to get the link. So,
I
if you
remember.
were link spamming, you weren't going to spend 10 grand on just, getting links out of Yahoo. The reason that I mention that is that now with all of this AI slop going on, there is a lot that Google can detect, Gemini, Google, whichever way you look at it, when they're looking at human mediated content, when they are acting, as the gatekeepers for the content when it comes in. And then the content's written in a different style. But at least I guess, when bots are looking at this, there is certainly the case if there are guardrails in here so that the content is going to be a little bit more genuine, given that I say that the audience gets an opportunity to upvote, downvote. But the fact that it has to be,
It's a
moderated by
very
somebody at the.
it's a very great analogy, because I guess one thing that many people do not realize is that Reddit is unique in a way it is humanly moderated. Every subreddit has a team of people who are just not doing that for any money or for any salary, but they are so excited about the topic to spend the whole day on Reddit, inside their subreddit, to moderate whatever is happening there. No other social media network has this level of human overseeing what is happening. That's why LinkedIn is so very easily manipulated. That's how every other social media network can be manipulated. Despite all the flags and filters and reports, there is still a lot of things happening there that are not useful or even allowed. On Reddit, there is a human person observing their own very little network, or huge or little, whichever. But it's very this level of people moderating people is unusual. There is no other social media network like that, and that's why it is so useful in many ways.
So there is that. And then there is the other thing about Reddit. And this is another conversation that I've had over the years. I actually wrote a piece a long time ago, having just used the word mediated, that mediated content on the World Wide Web, and by mediated, I'm talking about that which is written with structure by journalists, by copywriters, by, yeah, all of that kind of stuff was really important back in the day when we were thinking about keywords and and the mediated content was very important. What was the kind of spanner in the works then? was the fact that user-generated content started beating mediated content by a mile. And now the bulk of what we see online is actually this not mediated content. Yes, it's user-generated. And at Reddit, and this is again a very important thing, that I understand, again, understanding the science of information retrieval, how it's moved so far away from just the keyword independently being that important. They have their place, but in the final mix, not that important, where they're beginning to bring in, as they have done with BERT and other things over the years, a better understanding of natural language and user-generated content, particularly, like I say, at a place like Reddit, is not written like SEO writers do with keywords here and there. It's written the way that you speak. And I've discovered this is one of the most important things, particularly when it comes to training data, that if you write more closely to the way that you speak, natural language processing understands that a lot better now. So even the content, because it's written by human beings in their natural flow of language, and then moderated by another human being who fully understands that natural flow of language. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is interesting to kind of watch that transition from expert to experience, for sure. But as a user, if I want to find answers to a very specific question, I would go to Reddit for sure, where people actually share what they experienced, what happened, and how to solve it, versus a generic how-to step-by-step guide, which is not as useful in practice. And I'm sure Google is trying to move in that direction to be more useful. I guess there are use cases for both. Sometimes it's expert for health related topics, for example. Sometimes it should be user generated, and they're trying to capture both. But that's why Reddit is almost always in the pipeline, which if whether it's to discover things and learn, or whether to verify the claim or verify the reputation of a brand, whether it needs to be included in the answer, or whether it's a little bit tricky because there is a lot of huge discussion on Reddit on how scammy or not legit that business is. So it's on both levels. Sometimes it's actually discovering things to give in the answer, and sometimes it's verifying what AI was able to find elsewhere and see, okay, let's look at Reddit, what people are saying about this particular product. So it's on both levels of AI answer inclusion for sure.
So yeah, two interesting things there. One is that obviously for the purposes of AI and using AI to generate content, that it's not too difficult for a human these days to detect something's up with that content. I can tell. I mean, with images and something with 6 fingers and 3 legs or whatever it is.
With text as
You can always
well,
tell that.
you can
Yeah, but
definitely tell.
even when content is written, it's very dry and it does miss that human kind of thing. So you can get rid of some of that slop. The other thing is, again, it's interesting that you mentioned the experience expert, the whole thing with EAT, which is not an algorithm, but again, it is something that you can, qualify content, whether it makes the grade or not. But I think one of the things that people don't fully understand is, when we're using a word like expert and expertise, if they're looking for expert content, do I have to be a rocket scientist to write anything? The thing with expertise, again, it's a great difference between the way that you speak and you write as a human generally in the flow of natural language to the way that you would do it with mediated content. So the point that I'm making there is that I don't know anything about gardening at all. But if I was reading a piece about gardening and somebody says, in my experience, what I've done with this plant compared to that plant, they don't need to be a rocket scientist, but they are sharing their experience. And that becomes part of the natural flow as well. So,
I've been saying this for as long as I can remember. You are making your content unique, nothing else. Everything else is already written. ChatGPT at this point is an expert on anything. What it doesn't have
Thanks.
is experience. Yes. So and I remember when I just started in SEO, that a funny story that I keep retelling all the time. Obviously, English wasn't my native language, but I started a blog in English, and every sentence was a torture. Like, I was always wondering, do people even say this? How do I say that? So when I started blogging in English, it was way back 2004, I guess. Every article took me like a day to write because I was questioning every sentence. What I found was a cool way to kind of work around that is to create comparison tables. So I would compare all kinds of different SEO tools or tactics or what someone is saying, what I'm thinking. So it doesn't require that many words to put, but I got known. The first thing, I got attention from the industry because of those tables. And I only created them because I lacked English knowledge. So you can always input something unique into what already exists. And the only unique thing you have is you talking about your
Yes.
unique pain points, experiences, turning them into actually advantages. So it's been like that for as long as I can remember. It's just now is being obviously surfaced by search.
And it's a great analogy that you use when you're working with a second language and you have to get it right, and all of the nuances and the nonsense that goes sometimes with just generally speaking to people. So we don't have a great deal of time left. We have to come back and do this. I actually like the shorter versions because then you have to come back and talk some more about it. But given that we've kind of connected the dots between Reddit, where it is now, and that AI will choose, if I'm a brand now and I'm working with you, what is the formula here? We have to get some traction going at Reddit, and then we keep our fingers crossed, and Gemini will give us an AI overview at Google. What's the plan? How do we do it?
Well, there are many ways to approach that, and not all of them are pretty ethical or even legal, to be honest. Most people approach it, most businesses approach it by sponsoring comments on Reddit, where people who pretend to be their customers recommend their brand. Not exactly legal in the United States, where you cannot sponsor things like that, but that sometimes it's working. In most cases, it's pretty obvious those are people who have been paid to say this, but in many cases, it could work. We do a long-term approach, just like with SEO. We establish authoritative brand entity on Reddit that is actually transparently branded. It's the business account, the business subreddit. And we try to own the conversations, basically, not necessarily chase them around Reddit and trying to comment and input our brand name somewhere there. We don't do that. Well, in some with the growth, there definitely we go outside of the subreddit and we comment. We already have our karma reputation. We are well perceived at that point. But at the beginning, what I'm saying, how we start, first month is just the research and building the accounts, that like warming up, because you cannot do much on Reddit unless you have a very well established account. And then we set up the subreddit, we create the editorial calendar for it, we start inviting people to it from the customers, leads, website, whatever you can have. So it's just like building up another official account. Takes time, but the goal is that it ranks. So for all those queries that people are asking about this product or solving the solution, we want our subreddit to be part of that Reddit pack. That is the goal. Achievable within about 6 months, but it is definitely a process. No, I don't do Reddit shortcuts because it's just dangerous and can backfire with a lot of reputation issues. So we do it the long and the right way. But how I always try to frame it to the clients is that when you own the channel, and it makes a difference in Google and subsequently LLMs because they search Google, you own those conversations. It's not like you are part of it as a comment or something. That's you are the head of that conversation. It makes much more difference than trying to comment on all of those threads outside of your subreddit. So in the long term, it's much more impactful because you are not one of the commenters. You are the head of the whole conversation.
But I guess, in traditional marketing terms, you can use advertising as much as you want to bang, 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 get your brand out there. But if you have a great PR campaign and you get journalists talking about you and other people, as they say about the difference between PR and advertising is you paying to tell people how great you are. PR is other people who are not being paid telling the audience how great you are. So
Yep,
great
absolutely.
similarities there.
I mean, there are use cases for both of these approaches, especially if you combine them well. Advertising can help PR. PR can help
Absolutely.
advertising. So it's definitely, but our way is definitely organic. More establish yourself before people believe that you are really great, instead of just trying at every corner to cry, I'm great. You kind of you create an account that people know is great, and they will start talking about you in that way.
So the important thing, as we've been saying in SEO for a long time, be real, be authentic, be yourself.
Yep.
Don't look for any silver bullets. I mean, there's more to it than that. That's
And I
sure.
guess, if there is one thing that AI is helping us in as an industry, is making all these things that we've been saying for as long as I can remember be useful, be authentic, build your brand, all of that. Now, suddenly, everyone is like, yes, it sounds like that's the only way around. So it definitely is helping us to be heard in terms of this. And don't get me wrong, I actually admire SEO, part of our SEO industry that knows how to do it fast, then burn the site, switch to another one, make money. They're adventurous people, the black hat community. I actually admire what they're doing. I don't want to be like, oh my God, that's not right. Do not do that. If you are risky, if you don't think this is your business for as long as as you can imagine, if you're
If you're not
adventurous,
building a brand.
go ahead and do shortcuts. I'm not that boring to say no, it's just one way and no other one. But I provide services to businesses. Unfortunately, I cannot take risks because I'm
No.
responsible for their well-being. So my way is always long-term and actually
Steady.
yes.
Yeah. And you're responsible for as being a guardian of the brand. By the way, I don't know whether you know this, but it was me who coined the term black hat
Oh,
in the SEO
really? Oh
industry.
my God.
Yes, 25 years ago. I wish I hadn't done it, but I was trying to explain something there. But some
Well,
people say one man's spam is another man's tactic. That's all it is.
well, yes. Well, a white hat turned after that, right? So first those were black hat.
So
I mean,
I wrote a piece.
how did the term white hat turn around? Who coined that?
I'll do this real quick because we're running out of time. But I wrote in an interview that I did all those years ago, and it was a kind of a parody thing that I was writing about Google and how Google was looking to prevent people from spamming, and become like more genuine or authentic. And I can't remember it exactly. I'll have to go back to it. But that's when I wrote a piece where I said, and then I was captured by Google and my snowy white hat.
Oh,
I said my dark black hat turned snowy white, and I have been a white hat ever since.
oh, that is so interesting. Wow,
And
I
that's
had
how
no
it filtered
idea.
into the community.
I
I'll
had
have to
no
figure out
idea.
exactly who it was. It was a funny interview. Anyway, the time goes by so quickly. I can hardly believe it. There you go. We've been talking for 30 minutes or more, and this has been great, though, and thank you very much. I've been wanting to do this for a while, just so that people can get an idea of just how important this is. So if you don't mind, after this one, we'll get it back on the schedule again, and then we'll come back and do part 2 and just a deeper look on the actual tactical side of setting up a campaign with Reddit, with the notion that the benefit of that may help you with AI overviews as well, yeah?
Absolutely. Not just AI overviews, pretty much everything. The whole
Exactly.
the whole industry, search, AI overviews, Gemini, AI mode. No, don't get me started. Chat GPT. Everything now depends
Yeah.
on Google, on Reddit for sure. And even though many businesses are not happy with that, because Reddit is very hard to control. It's very hard to build presence on. You really need a strategy before you do anything. But I feel like there is no visible replacement for that kind of first-hand experience platform that is Reddit.
All great advice. Great advice. And like I say, lovely to have you on. I'm afraid that it all goes by too quickly, as I've just said, but at least we can start and plan part 2 now. Ann Smarty, lovely to have you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
That's it again for another Inside Marketing Live on 65. And once again, many thanks to my great guests for joining me here. Now, if you've enjoyed the show, do give it a nice thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another show. And if you'd like to join me in person to chat about what's on your mind in the world of marketing, send me an email to guests@insidemarketing.us. That's guests@insidemarketing.us, and we'll take it from there. In between, you do take care, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.